United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Is my mic just incredibly loud to me, or is that everyone? Matt, could we have roll call, please?
Counselor Malonis.
Here.
Bingham.
Here.
Pedri.
Here.
Demas.
Here.
Zadi.
Here.
Hanson.
Here.
Hickerson.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
Mayor Mickelson.
Here. Council, I would entertain a motion to approve the revised agenda.
So moved, Your Honor.
Thank you, Councilor Hickerson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Demas. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries, which brings us to our consent agenda. First up, we have the City Council meeting minutes of February 18th, 2025. Appointments of Mark Cott for the second term to the Board of Adjustment and Alex Visser for an unexpired term to the Southwest Wyoming Regional Airport Board. The Rock Springs Renewal Fund financial statements from November 2024, the Parks and Recreation Department proposed outdoor fee schedule adjustments, revised acknowledgement of receipt of financial disclosure statements, the Joint Powers Telecom Board meeting minutes of January 16th, 2025, the Joint Powers Combined Communication Board meeting minutes of January 27th, 2025, and finally, we have a thank you note from the Mountain Lily Chapter Number 10, Order of the Eastern Star, regarding the city's display of Christmas lights in Budding Park, and a letter from Bochetto's European Market regarding parking their vehicles in the city parking lot. Do we have a motion?
Your Honor.
Councilor Demas?
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Thompson. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries unanimously, bringing us to presentations and proclamations. And first up, we have the Arts Month proclamation. And I believe there are some folks here to speak to this. If they'd like to approach the podium and let us know who they are, it would be appreciated.
I'm here as a volunteer, but I've missed everyone. I'm Deborah Soule, for those who don't know. We've started this 4 years ago, I think, and it's really bringing a lot of attention to the arts in our community and the importance of having performances and art displays, and it just touches my heart really closely, so I get really excited. There are some of these posters up on the bench, so if you haven't seen one, have a place to put one up, grab one as you leave, please.
May I say, since these have been printed, Ronstadt Live, which is going to be a Linda Ronstadt tribute concert, has been added to the Broadway Theater lineup on March 28th. And I want to add to what Deborah said. In addition to having all these opportunities to see things, opportunities that people in the community don't necessarily recognize. I don't know if you have ever gone and seen the youth art exhibits in the library. We have some incredibly talented, very small children in our community, and for them to have the opportunity to have, it's like the town refrigerator, you know, is it like a refrigerator where the goes on the fridge project, and you get to take your mom and your grandma and your aunts and uncles to see your art hanging up at the library? That's meaningful for a child. And they're good. They're really good art projects. And for the community to get out and see some of the plays and participate in all these things, it's all pretty incredible. And it's all right here in Rock Springs. So go ahead.
Oh, you were great. As Maria was talking about the kids' art, that was one of the most favorite things that I would do each year, is be able to hang that up and watch their faces when their parents come in. And yeah, all of this it's new. I'm trying to adjust to retirement. So,
And not speak on behalf of the Art Center.
I'm trying not to, but I'm
That's
still,
okay. You
that
still
is my
can.
love. I was there 24 years, you know. But in addition to the performances and the art shows, there are classes, you know, anyone can take. And trying art is good for the soul. So we appreciate that you're going to have a proclamation declaring this Arts Month in Rock Springs.
Absolutely. Council, do you have any comments or questions before I? No? Okay.
I'd just like to add that on March 27th, we are going to have the Mayor's Art Awards at the Western Wyoming Community College atrium. Last year's was amazing. They all are, but last year's was really good. That was a perfect venue, big enough to accommodate easily everybody that wanted to come. So I would really encourage every one of you to come and participate with that, and again, see some of the amazing artists and their work that we have in our town, so.
Certainly looking forward to it. Downtown Rock Springs, the Community Fine Arts Center, and all other local cultural organizations under the Sweetwater Arts Partnership has declared March to be the Arts Month in Rock Springs. The arts and humanities embody much of the accumulated wisdom, intellect, and imagination of humankind. The arts and humanities enhance and enrich the lives of everyone in our community. The arts and humanities play a unique role in the lives of our families, our communities, and our country. Our local organizations have celebrated the value and importance of culture in the lives of our citizens by sponsoring exhibits, concerts, and performances. The arts and culture industry strengthens our nation's economy by generating $1.2 billion to Wyoming's economy alone and supports the full-time equivalent of 11,461 arts employment jobs in our state. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Max Mickelson, Mayor of the City of Rock Springs, do hereby declare March 2025 to be the Arts Month in Rock Springs, Wyoming, and call upon our community members to celebrate and promote the arts and culture in our city, and to specifically encourage the greater participation by those said community members in taking action for the arts and humanities in our community. Thank you.
And if I might add, there are a stack of these posters on the last bench there next to the agendas. So if you wanted to take one, oh, you did? Oh, okay. Please take and post.
One, two, three.
Okay. Next up, we have Women's History Month proclamation. So I'm wondering if there's anyone here to speak for that? Okay.
No women?
I mean, there are lots of women here.
Very important.
In March, we celebrate Women's History Month and honor the contributions of women in American history, despite hardship, discrimination, and exclusion. Women play a critical economic, cultural, and social role in every sphere of life in Rock Springs. Women have been leaders in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, and in the abolitionist, emancipation, industrial labor, civil rights, and peace movements, creating a more fair and just society for all. Despite their contributions, the role of women in history has been consistently overlooked and undervalued in literature, teaching, and the study of American history. This month, we can celebrate countless pioneering women and their victories, and we continue our work to build a society where our daughters have the same possibilities as our sons. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Max Mickelson, Mayor of the City of Rock Springs, do hereby declare March 2025 to be Women's History Month in the City of Rock Springs, and I call upon the Rock Springs community to observe this month and to celebrate with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. I also invite citizens to visit womenshistorymonth.gov to learn more about the generations of women who have left enduring imprints on our history. And I have to say, as somebody who spent their entire life in terror of the absolutely domineering, intelligent, and strong women in my family, I very strongly support Women's History Month. which brings us to chickens. Not really. It brings us to petitions and public comment. I'm going to make the bold assumption that many of you are here to talk about chickens. This is, I understand, our third go round with the great chicken debate. And in the interest of respecting y'all's time, the way I'd like to structure this is if I could start, everybody who's pro chicken, will you hold your hand up so we can count? Okay. So there's 1, 4. Okay, I count 21. Does anybody else?
I got 21.
Okay. Folks who are opposed to chickens, if you would please raise your hands. Okay. Okay. So representing this evening, which I'm going to venture is not a scientifically valid sample, we've got 21 pro, 6 opposed. We're going to invite you to come up to the podium and give comment with this caveat. If somebody has already given the comment, if you would please not come up and repeat yourself, or we'll be here until tomorrow. But if you have new information or something that wasn't presented, then we're more than happy to hear from you. And there is a sheet, if you could please write your name on it if you're giving comment, and whether you were pro or anti-chicken, just so we have a good idea of what we're working with. So with that, I would turn the floor over, not just to chicken comment, but to any public comment regarding any subject.
Oh boy. Hello, council members and Mayor Mickelson. My name is Amanda Margrave. I live in Ward 4, and I am here to speak on behalf of changing the current city ordinance to allow backyard chickens. So I had prepared a much longer statement, and it was really long. So I emailed that statement with all my sources for my research to all of you guys. Makes it easier. So I reviewed the language in the proposed change, and I agree wholeheartedly with the language that is in the proposed ordinance change. It was available on Sweetwater Now. I created and shared a Google form recently on Sweetwater rants and raves. I know. And community info on Facebook. I allowed community members to submit their input for a full week. I received about 300 responses. And although I realize that this is not a scientifically reliable and valid cross-section of our community, the data showed that 77% of the people who participated in the survey would like to change the ordinance to allow backyard chickens, while 23% were opposed to an ordinance change. Ooh, my phone died. The concerns raised by the community members in the form are largely addressed in the language that was provided in the ordinance change. Much of that was odor, noise, unsightly conditions, animal abuse, stuff like that. And in the ordinance change, it's pretty well addressed. Backyard chickens have been a successful ordinance change in many municipalities, and I believe that the ordinance change in our city would prove to be a success as also. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
I'll sign this real quick.
Ma'am?
I'm hurrying. Sorry.
Hello, good evening, Mr. Mayor and the City Council members. I have some information packets for them. Like, shall I just come and give it to you there? Or, okay. Shall I come this way? Yeah. So again, good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. My name is Madhu Anderson. I'm from Rock Springs, and I thank you for allowing me to speak today. I strongly oppose the proposal to allow backyard chickens within the Rock Springs city limits due to the serious public health risks posed by the ongoing outbreak of highly pathogenic avian influenza. The main reason egg prices are so high right now is that this highly contagious virus has killed nearly 150 million chickens, including millions that were culled to prevent its spread. How can we consider bringing chickens into our backyards at this time? While some argue that backyard chickens provide fresh eggs and potential revenue for the city and that food freedom is important, the health and safety of the community must come first. I oppose this proposal for two key reasons: public health risks and biosecurity challenges. I will briefly outline each of these points today. Public health risks. The Wyoming Livestock Board and the USDA Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service have confirmed the presence of highly pathogenic avian influenza, commonly known as bird flu, in backyard chicken flocks in Washakie, Sheridan, and Platte counties. Alarmingly, a woman in Wyoming was recently hospitalized after handling infected backyard chickens, making her the fourth person in North America to be hospitalized with avian flu. Even more concerning, a person in Louisiana recently died after exposure to infected backyard chickens and wild birds. Avian flu has already been reported in Wyoming's wild bird population and commercial poultry. Though human infection remains rare, it is still occurring, and the consequences can be severe. Biosecurity challenges. On February 26, U.S. Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Collins announced a $1 billion investment to combat avian flu, including $500 million for biosecurity measures and $100 million for vaccine research and temporary import options. Wyoming's State Health Officer, Dr. Alexia Harris, has warned residents to avoid wild birds and closely monitor poultry for symptoms such as coughing, sneezing, lethargy, and sudden death. However, maintaining strict biosecurity in backyard flocks is extremely difficult, and many owners cannot afford the necessary veterinary care, increasing the risk of spreading diseases. Additionally, neglected coops create unsanitary conditions, producing offensive odors, attracting rodents, and drawing in predators, all of which can negatively impact our community. Allowing backyard chickens would undermine the government's current efforts to combat avian influenza and increase disease risk in our community. For these reasons, I strongly urge you to reject this proposal. I welcome any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we're good. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Does anyone have any public comment that is not specific to chickens? Okay. Does anyone have any pro or anti-chicken comments that are different from what we've heard substantively? Okay. I'm asking because in deference to all of you being here, I'm going to move our council discussion around the ordinances directly after the close of public comment so you can hear from all of us and don't have to wait until the end of the meeting for that process, but please.
Hi, I'm Rhonda Zincanella. I did not want to speak today, but I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about the measures that were in the ordinance would protect against bird flu because it requires the chicken coops and the runs to be enclosed. And it's the wild birds that can transmit it, and so the risk would be very low. And that's it. But if you guys have some questions, I can answer them.
Thank you. Okay, are we ready for the council's comments? Oh.
I believe most of my other information has been covered by other people, but I have written an email to the council. I'm sure you all were bothered by my email.
Sorry, can you identify yourself for the record?
Oh, my name is Matt Durant. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Do I need to call myself the crazy chicken person, or just that's assumed? Okay.
Just need to speak up a little bit.
Okay, I'll speak a little louder. So after I emailed, I reached out to different municipalities that do have chickens, because one of the concerns that I thought existed was the impact on animal control to be able to respond to any chicken-related calls. And so I sent an email to 4 different cities and asked how many times their animal control had to respond to the calls. And so I thought that would be relevant. The lowest, when Laramie and Lander were both about 4, and that's over the course of last year. The entire year they had about 4. Green River had 11, but they also called me and talked to me. They said no citations were called, and no citations were written. They were all able to be handled without needing to see a judge or anything. The last municipality was Casper, and they had 22 chicken-related calls. But even at 22 over the course of the year, that's 2 a month. That is a rather small amount, and I believe managed by our enforcement that we have currently, and should not impair other efforts we have ongoing.
Your Honor, I have a
Yes, sir.
question. Matt, when you were talking to these municipalities, did they mention what the violations were, or the complaints?
There was so each of them mentioned at least one chicken at large. Chickens don't tend to want, no, this wasn't any sort of strange or causing any, it's a chicken, it's not causing any danger, and they don't go far. They are fairly stationary. They like their space. And so it's just they got into the yard, or they got out of the yard, and they get put back over the fence. Another was, I believe it was mentioned, the smell, because obviously this is an animal, and it's not going to use the bathroom, and it's going to just go wherever it wants. But they were very positive and commenting that the smell can be negated by using proper bedding and cleaning. And we're not talking about a weekly cleaning, but quarterly. This sort of thing can help mitigate any issues with that. And then they also mentioned the odd noise complaint. Most of those also involved roosters, which I believe we're not considering because they're just not worth the trouble. Is there any other questions from the council?
Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Did you contact Cheyenne at all? Because they recently passed an ordinance allowing chickens.
I contacted them, but they didn't get back to me. So that would make sense if they only recently allowed chickens, then they might not have much data to share. I wouldn't expect to get a response when it's just 0, especially if they didn't have chickens. But all of these, they do allow, and they have for some time. And they really aren't causing trouble that is needing any sort of enforcement.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have any dogs that attacked the chickens by chance?
No, I hadn't. No one mentioned that an animal attacking. Not dog, not cats.
I was thinking more dogs.
Dogs would very easily. But also we have predatory birds. But no one mentioned people reporting that, and so that might just be something they don't report to law enforcement. But it also, that is true.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Are we good to turn it over to council for discussion? Not yet. Nope. Oh. We got two up. We've got two up, so we'll let him go, and you just grab a seat in the front row there. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Chuck Tate, and I was asked to be down here tonight because I am very much against the chickens. And I don't have anything to say. I don't have any, well, there were 13, and so on. But I am here as opposed to the use of chickens.
Thank you.
Hello, Council. My name is Mackenzie Bertinoli, and I am here for chickens. I was curious, where did the rules come from that were on Sweetwater now? Where did those originate from?
The proposed ordinance change?
Yes, the proposed rules, I guess.
Yeah, those come from our city attorney's office.
Okay.
However, when we get to council discussion, it'll just be good to stick around for that. But that is our initial sort of, here's our take on chickens. And then that's part of the purpose of having the 3 readings, is to give time for feedback and to make adjustments one way or the other.
Okay, I see. So, and I would like to say that avian flu has not been found in Sweetwater County yet. It has in other counties. And I agree with some of the rules, except for that you have to ask your neighbor. I could say, I mean, you could tell your neighbor, but I think to get actual permission is not necessary. Maybe letting them know, especially if you don't have a rooster. Like where I live, we have 0 property lines. So it's just a neighborly thing to do to, if you do decide to get chickens, to say, hey, I'm just letting you know. And I think that was the only difference. What was the amount to allow?
So under current ordinances, you're allowed 4 animals.
Right.
Total. So if you have
Right.
a dog and a cat, 2 chickens.
I have 4 cats,
Then
so
0
I'm already
chickens.
maxed out.
Yeah. Unless you were to get, and that's a part of council discussion. We think that there's some more work to be done to sort of fine tune the ordinance before moving forward. Because otherwise I think you'd have to get a kennel license,
Correct.
and that's $500 a year. So, but yeah, so there's certainly
It went up. It used to be 100.
It's 5.
It's 5 now for a
Yeah.
kennel license?
Um,
Okay.
So in any event, like that's kind of where we're at.
And then was there like a yearly permit or something like that for the coop that was proposed? Like a fee that they would pay animal control if they wanted to have chickens?
25, but was it annual? Yeah. Yeah.
And I know, okay. I agreed to 50. I mean, either way, 25 is always better, but 50 is okay too. And I think all the rest of it I agreed with. So looking forward to making this happen.
Very good. Well, it's going to be a productive discussion. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. I'm looking around. Uh-oh.
Hi, I'm Destiny Sandborn. I'm Deshawn Bala. We're homeschool moms. How many people got to raise chickens in their kindergarten class?
I
mean-
did it as my college project.
We
And I had
raise
to start.
chickens on the farm. So
Okay.
It's important to us as parents and as families to be able to do such and to teach our kids.
About raising chickens, about raising animals. I don't have to ask permission to raise a dog from my neighbor. with my kids. I shouldn't have chicken either. You know, it's a part of our livelihood, right? Is eggs. And with the world we're in right now, we can't say that there's going to be a market for eggs, right? Like any day that could go away. Our children should know how to raise their own food. We get to teach them how to hunt. We get to teach them how to garden. We should teach them how to raise eggs and chickens.
Yep. And also on the pest side of things, chickens eat the rodents. They eat the snakes. They eat the ticks. So for that to be, they bring the rodents, I think that that's not really a viable thing. They would be more beneficial than less beneficial.
They also eat a lot of your kitchen scraps, so
there's less food waste.
That eliminates a lot from our landfills that don't need to be there.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just going to do the 1, 2, 3 countdown, but
I figured I'd jump in. So my name's Shane McCormick, council, mayor. I think several of the points that have been addressed tonight are valid. I do agree with some of the ordinances. However, some of them I don't. I'm pro-chicken. I don't agree with. I think for pets, dogs, that's great. Chickens, slightly different story. The thing that was spoken on earlier about having to ask your neighbor, I agree. I mean, dogs, if you do the research, dogs, 80 to 100 decibels on a barking dog. So my mom has neighbors with barking dogs. They call animal control, nothing's done. Chickens, 70 to 90 decibels on a hen. So it's not going to be any louder than a barking dog or 3 or 4 barking dogs. If your chickens roost, they aren't noisy at night. So they're typically up during normal curfew hours, so to speak. I agree with some of the stuff that was spoken about the pests and the flu stuff. But I would encourage that to be considered more. And then the noise complaint, I don't believe is valid because dogs are much louder. And we have actively tried to get neighbors with loud dogs to quiet their dogs, call the police. Nothing's really done to address those issues. So I would encourage, we shouldn't have to ask the neighbors to have something that, they don't ask us to have 4 dogs that bark and are in and out of dog doors and all night long. So I would encourage that to be a consideration as well. Appreciate it.
thank you. Okay, going once.
Good evening, Councilman. My name is Juan Valdez. I live in Rock Springs, Wyoming as well. I am pro-chicken. I think at the beginning stages of this, of course, there's going to be some discrepancies or some things that we can change in the procedures or the legality of what's going to go down. On the predator side, the biggest predators that I have found through the national research through the United States is number 1, raccoons, number 2, foxes, birds of prey, coyotes, weasels and minks, opossums, mice and rats, dogs, cats, and number 10, humans for predators of chickens. And as you can see, a lot of those animals do not exist around our native land. Some of the biggest contributors would be dogs and cats, but we already have rules and regulations for making sure your dogs are in your yard, they're leashed. I mean, within that side of the legality, I already think that we have structures to try to prevent that part of it. I did want to add that 1 chicken per household can save up to 80 pounds a year of scraps. That can help us out as well on the landfills. And I think that was it. I think everybody else had already spoke on the rest of the contributing factors. On the predator side, I just wanted to bring up that we might have 3 or 4 of the predators, but we already have rules to try to mitigate that as best as we can. So
Appreciate it.
thank you, gentlemen.
Okay. Anybody else?
Hello, my name's Amanda Bruder. I am pro-chicken, and you all probably know my name because I've emailed you already. But I was just looking up some stuff because I was thinking about the cases of avian flu versus rabies, which affects mammals. And I just looked up the numbers. And yes, there's only 4 cases of avian flu in the entire state of Wyoming. In 2024, I don't have 2025 numbers, but from the University of Wyoming, for rabies, there was 11 positive bats and 15 positive skunks. And that's more of a risk to people through bites and affecting our pets, our dogs or cats that are outside, that are more out. So I just wanted to address that we're more at risk from rabies from mammals, and it's the same thing as like with dogs that are loud, because my dog is way louder than any chicken I've ever owned. And you can do certain things like not have roosters in city limits, and that's where your loud chickens are. But yeah, with the rabies, that's just what I wanted to address, that's a more common animal infection than avian flu. And by the time we got this passed, the avian flu concerns might be gone by the time people can actually get chickens up and raised and outdoors, because it takes a lot of work. It's not just you go on eBay and buy full-grown chickens. They start out this big, and you have to keep them alive, which is kind of hard when they're little because they don't like staying alive without a lot of your interventions, and it's a big investment. So it's not something that everybody's just going to be able to run out and do right away. So with that, that's all I've got. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? Very good. So with that, I would invite council to share the feedback that they've received and their thoughts around chickens.
Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
If I could start off, I guess. It's my 3rd go-around with chickens. Received kind of probably even pro and con, but some of the things I wanted to kind of address and some of the comments that were made is that many can't afford the vet. I don't know where that came from. That sounds like it's a pretty good assumption, or not a pretty bad assumption, actually. I do believe it is a hefty investment, I think, up front. And I think what people are going to find, maybe those who want to do this, is once they realize how much it's going to cost to build the coop, get the chickens to feed and everything else, they're going to realize there is an investment there. And they're going to want to protect that investment. So I would imagine, just like you would with your dog and cat, you would go to the vet if it's needed. I just don't think it's right to assume that many can't afford it, or most can't. Again, with the coops, it would require that they are enclosed. They can't get out. They can't be free out just running around. Avian flu, from my understanding, does come from mainly wild birds, and a lot of it is waterfowl, ducks, geese, and things of that nature. So the enclosure of the coop itself does help mitigate the avian flu potential. Cleaning the cage coops regularly and all that all helps as well. I think people will find that it is a job to have chickens. It's not something you just jump into and let them run right freely. There's work to it. There's a commitment to it. If this were to pass, I would imagine we would see maybe a potential of a few more people than normal give it a shot and then realize it's not for them and move away from it. And it would then normalize. The asking your neighbor thing, I do have a problem with that as well. I think I'm not necessarily pro-chicken. I'm pro-property rights. If I want to have chickens, I can have chickens. If I want to have a dog, I can have a dog or a cat. I believe this was put in the first time we came around as an effort to try and appease those who are against chickens by putting a requirement in there to ask your neighbors. I would be in favor of taking that out completely, actually. that kind of sums up some of the thoughts I have right now offhand, but I do look forward, or don't look forward to the next 3 readings, because these meetings tend to go on forever. But I do appreciate everybody coming out and voicing your concerns and participating in what we're doing here with your government. And again, I just want to reiterate as well, the ordinance, as the mayor had stated, this is a starting point. We have 3 readings, we go through, we make changes, and then we pass on a 3rd, if that's how things proceed. So that's all I have right now.
Thank you.
Your Honor.
Councilor Thompson.
Part of it, I was looking at the ordinance from my background, law enforcement, the people that are going to have to enforce these. And I came up with some questions, and I gave them to our city attorney who'd answered a lot of them. It doesn't, let me see where I can start from here. Like everybody else, I got my phone. We talked about the $25 initial permit fee. And that's open to discussion, and whether on your coop, if it's considered a permanent structure, would that being, I talked to our engineering department, would that bring in a planning and zoning issue, depending on what type of structure you're gonna make for your chickens, if it was gonna be, a permanent or just a shed, the shed that you can bring in with a forklift and put in there. So I have to discuss some of that. Some of the discussion I've heard on people, they want to talk about selling the eggs, or if they're just for personal consumption. Does that come, would you need, a vendor's permit, like they do for the food trucks or things like that? And these aren't things that I'm for or against, it's just questions that came up as I was reviewing it, because some of the ordinance didn't cover some of it.
Probably covered by cottage laws.
It's covered by the Freedom Food.
Yeah, the cottage laws in Wyoming.
In 2018,
Okay.
Governor
Okay.
Gordon passed the Food Freedom Act, where you're
Okay.
able to sell your own eggs.
Can you send, you have my email, can you send me a copy of that, or just a link to it, so I can look that up?
Sure.
That's what this whole thing is about, for us to get information, so that we can all make a decision. Okay. And the limit, we had talked about, because the current animal control says you can have up to 4 animals, and you talked about the $500 fee. There is different numbers. If you have 10 or more animals, then it's $500. But it doesn't state in there whether that's yearly, but it is. And if somebody was going to raise chickens, had 10 chickens, and you're paying $500 a month or a year for a kennel license, that's not really going to, it's going to cost you more than it's worth. So that's something we would need to look into and separate whether or not, dogs and cats, and separate to chickens if there was something separate. You've got 4 cats, so you can have 6 chickens, and you're going to pay $500 a year. That's not going to be worth it for you. So to change the classification of the chicken from, and that's something that we would, and that's something that would have to be discussed. I mean, the way that the ordinance is right now, it doesn't cover that.
Salt Lake does as well.
Right. So we're getting, because we've sort of closed public comment. We're just gonna let the council chat and not do dialogue.
If you have information, you can send it to us.
Yeah.
That's a lot of what I'm doing right now, is just soliciting information. And these are the questions that I had. If you guys have answers, by all means, send it to us. Let me see.
Mayor, may I address a couple of the questions that the councilor had?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Go ahead.
Councilor.
You had.
The fee is annual. The ordinances very clearly say that the fee is $500 every year annually. And so it is a recurring fee. Also under our ordinances, a structure or a building is defined as any structure used or intended or supporting or sheltering any use or occupancy, having enclosed space and a roof for the housing and or enclosure of persons, animals, or chattels. So any chicken coop would necessarily be considered a structure for purposes of our ordinances, and you would have to submit some kind of a site plan to planning and zoning that would be approved by the planning and zoning administrator. We aren't limiting under the ordinance any zones in which chickens can or cannot be housed. You just merely have to submit a site plan that would be approved for its location. The actual permit itself would be approved by animal control.
Thank you.
Mr. Beckwith, with those fees, they go into the general fund, is that correct?
Counselor, Mayor, that's correct.
Is that by ordinance or by resolution, or how does that work?
Counselor Hanson, Mayor, Council, that's simply what we do with all the money that comes into the city. You can ask my partner here.
That would be the most logical fit for the fees, because animal control and any of the services that would be expended would be coming from the general fund. The only other funds we have are water, sewer, which clearly this wouldn't be related to, public housing, and the internal service fund for health insurance.
And so thank you guys. Also, then with the building, with the chicken coop itself, would that be inspected by planning and zoning or animal control or both?
Your Honor, depends on the size. Building code does not regulate structures under 250 square feet. So, I would doubt that a chicken coop exceeds that, so it would not be inspected by the building inspectors. I believe what Mr. Beckwith said was you would turn in a site plan that shows where the structure is to be located, that would be approved through the zoning ordinance as an accessory structure, but it wouldn't kick in a building permit, more than likely, depending on the size.
Thank you.
If I may?
Yes.
Councilor Hanson, Mayor, members of the council, they merely have to meet the setback requirements relative to the approval of where the structure is going to go.
Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Clarification too on one thing that was brought up of a vendor's permit. If the eggs are used personally, that's your will. There's no need for a permit. If you sell and go into business to sell eggs, that's where you need the vendor's permit. So I wanted to make sure it was clear there that we're not saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, that if you're consuming your own eggs, you don't need a permit to do that, is how this is currently done. So.
Councilor Zadi, Mayor, members of the council, you're essentially correct, but we're looking at it the wrong way. It's an occupation tax. If you're selling the eggs and you have a business at your home selling eggs, then that would be considered a home occupation, and you would have to pay, you'd have to get a business license for that. But if you're just growing them for your own purposes, no. You'd only need a vendor's permit, of course, if you have a mobile vending unit and you're going out and selling eggs, but you would have to get a home occupation license.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Your Honor, yes. So question, as far as the zoning permit goes, and maybe you don't know this offhand, just a question, but would that chicken coop, could it be located in the front yard, or or accessory structures required to be in the rear yard of the property?
Your Honor, I guess it depends on what the ordinance is going to read, to be honest with you. We would regulate it accordingly. Accessory structures can be located anywhere on the property as long as they meet the setbacks. There is no restriction solely to the rear yard or rear area, but if the ordinance says that they have to be in the the back part of the lot or the fenced area of the rear part of the lot, that's the way it'll be enforced.
Which is how it currently reads. So it appears, which I don't think anyone will be surprised, that chickens are much more complicated than one would hope on the surface. So Councilor Thompson had proposed an idea that I think is a very solid one, we're going to call a committee of some very pro chicken council members and some very concerned, maybe not so pro council members, and see if we can't come together and work on some language with the ordinance that maybe clarifies some things. And with any luck, we will have that ready, amendments ready at the next council meeting. If we're not able to do that work in time, then the proposal would be to table it at the next council meeting to give us more time. Because certainly, whether we allow chickens or don't allow chickens, we want to make sure that we're giving it its due attention and providing that time for feedback from the public. So, okay, very good. So we will close discussion on that and move to the really exciting part of the meeting. Bills and claims for March 4th, 2025. Council, do we have a motion?
Your Honor,
Councilor Demus.
I make a motion to approve bills and claims for March 4th, 2025.
Second.
Thank you. Councilor Bingham for the second. Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining?
I'll be abstaining.
Abstaining.
Okay, the motion carries with Councilors PG and Thompson abstaining, bringing us to the salaries for February 21st, 2025. Do we have a motion?
Your Honor,
Councilor Demus?
I make a motion to approve the salaries for February 21st, 2025.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Hickerson. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining?
Abstaining.
Abstaining.
Okay, the motion carries with Councilors Thompson and PG abstaining, bringing us to new business. First up, we have a request from the Engineering Operations and Public Services Department for permission to reject the bid received and rebid the Rock Springs Miscellaneous Utility Project Phase 1. Do we have a motion?
Your Honor,
Councilor Demus?
I make a motion to approve this request.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Petrie. Is there any discussion?
Your Honor.
Councilor Hickerson?
Mr. Kausich, what would you expect this to cost? Because I know, what was that last, what, 6 million and change?
Yes, Your Honor, that the engineer's estimate was a little over 5 million.
Okay.
Now, that's just an estimate.
Yes.
But we noticed, in reviewing the bid, we noticed that quite a few of the unit prices were significantly high.
Okay.
And what we deemed out of line. And that's why we made this recommendation.
So not necessarily the overall cost, but the cost of certain portions of it.
Well, which in turn
Inflated the
inflated the overall cost. And that's why we chose, as you'll see, to rebid it and split it into smaller projects to try to get more local and you know, maybe smaller contractors to be able to bid it and hopefully get more reasonable bids.
All right. Thank you for the clarification.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Kausich, is this just one street we're trying to replace, or is it a couple different places throughout town, or?
Yes, Your Honor, it's multiple places around town. This is a miscellaneous water, sewer, and storm sewer, and it included, I can't tell you the exact number of areas, but it was multiple areas across the city.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries unanimously, bringing us to a request from the Urban Renewal Agency for permission to apply for Creative West's 2025 Accessibility Mini Grant to help offset the cost of replacing the existing chairlift at the Broadway Theater. Do we have a motion?
Your Honor,
Councilor Hanson?
I move to approve this request.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Bingham. Is there any discussion?
I have one question, Your Honor. What is the cost, total cost to replace that lift? Does anybody know what the total cost is?
Your Honor, Counselor Molinas, I unfortunately did not bring that to me. I can email you the last time they got an estimate on it.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, that's all right. Thank you.
Okay, very good.
Counselor Malonis, I'm not sure, but I think whatever the grant is, it's going to help defray the cost to make it better for everybody, so that's why I approved it.
Thanks, Randy. I thought the grant was only a couple $100. I didn't.
It is. But a couple $100
$750.
against whatever it is, I think is a valid thing.
Yeah, and in the
This can be pretty expensive.
in the letter from Mr. Banks, he says they're waiting on the pricing to come in, but he believes that they have room in the existing building and grounds maintenance budget to cover the remaining cost.
Thank you.
Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Can I also say this is just a request to apply for the grant?
Yes, sir.
Correct. So if we get the grant, we still have the decision whether or not to proceed in purchasing the lift, depending on cost. So we're not fully committing to replacing it at this point.
Very good. Okay. So no further discussion. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries unanimously, taking us to a request from the Rock Springs Liquor Dealers Association for approval of the 2025 all-night bar dates. Do we have a motion?
So moved, Your Honor.
Thank you, Councilor Hickerson. Do we have a second?
Second.
Demas by a nose. Okay. All right. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries unanimously, taking us to a request from Square State Brewing for 6 malt beverage permits for the Rock Springs Grizzly hockey games on March 7th, 8th, 12th, 15th, 19th, and 21st of 2025 from 6 p.m. until 9 p.m. at the Rock Springs Family Recreation Center Ice Arena. Do we have a motion?
So moved, Your Honor.
Thank you, Councilor Hickerson. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Pedri. Is there any discussion?
Your Honor, just a question.
Councilor Bingham?
Do other local breweries put in for this, or is this just
There's only
one?
2 of them.
There's only 2.
Yeah.
So-
One closed, and then I don't know what Bad Joker does for things of this nature.
Okay.
Sorry to step on your toes.
Just a question. Thank you.
Very good.
Yep.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries unanimously, taking us to our final item of new business this evening, a request from the Ponderosa Bar for 3 liquor catering permits for the Mule Deer Days Expo on March 21st to the 23rd of 2025 from 9 a.m. until midnight at the Sweetwater Events Complex. This also will require approval by the Green River City Council. So if anybody out there is watching them, let us know. Do we have a motion?
So moved, Your Honor.
Thank you, Councilor Hickerson. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Demas. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries unanimously, bringing us to resolutions. And first up, we have Resolution 2025-24.
A resolution accepting and approving a revised job description for the position of police officer for the city of Rock Springs, Wyoming.
Thank you. Council, do we have a motion?
Your Honor.
Councilor Demas?
I make a motion to approve Resolution 2025-24.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Hanson. Is there any discussion? No. Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries unanimously, taking us to Resolution 2025-25.
A resolution accepting and approving an addendum to the collective labor agreement between the International Union of United Mine Workers of America and the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming, and directing Max Mickelson as mayor of the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming, and Matthew L. McBurnett as city clerk of the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming, to execute said addendum on behalf of said city.
Thank you. Council, do we have a motion?
Your Honor, I move to approve Resolution 2025-24.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Demas. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries unanimously, bringing us to Resolution 2025-26.
A resolution accepting and approving a concession stand rental agreement with Jerry's Concessions and authorizing Max Mickelson as mayor of the city of Rock Springs, Wyoming, and Matthew L. McBurnett as city clerk of the city of Rock Springs, Wyoming, to execute said agreement on behalf of the city.
Thank you. Council, do we have a motion?
Your Honor. Oh, go ahead.
Councilor Bingham.
Move to approve Resolution 2025-26.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Councilor Petrie. Okay.
Fighting over here.
Yeah. No. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries unanimously, bringing us to Resolution 2025-27.
A resolution approving an amended cooperative agreement between the city of Rock Springs and the city of Green River, Wyoming, Sweetwater County, Wyoming, Joint Powers Water Board, and authorizing Max Mickelson as mayor of the city of Rock Springs to execute said amended agreement on behalf of the city.
Okay, council, do we have a motion?
Your Honor.
Your Honor.
Councilor
Move to
Thompson.
Approve 2025-27.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Demus. Is there any discussion?
Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I got a question for Mr. Kalsich. So I guess all those, Forsgren already put together the original plans, right, for that bid? So what are they just gonna, how would they separate it out? What are we talking about them doing here?
Your Honor, I believe you're on the next resolution, Counselor, but
Are we on 27?
27,
Oh,
yeah.
sorry
Yeah.
about that. We'll wait.
okay.
Okay. Seeing no further discussion for 2025-27, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries unanimously, bringing us to Resolution 2025-28. Oh, I didn't turn my mic on.
A resolution accepting and approving an amendment to the professional services agreement between Forsgren Associates, Inc. and the city of Rock Springs, and authorizing Max Mickelson as mayor of the city of Rock Springs, Wyoming, and Matthew L. McBurnett as city clerk of the city of Rock Springs to execute said amendment on behalf of said city.
Thank you. Council, do we have a motion?
Your Honor,
Councilor Hickerson.
I'll state the right one this time, since I screwed up last time. I move to approve Resolution 2025-28.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Thompson. Okay. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
So I don't know what that would look like. They just tear it in half and move it around? Or how do they do that?
I wish it, Your Honor, I wish it was that easy. But no, they will produce, as you said, the complete design is done. But now they're going to split it into two separate bid packages of smaller size. So they have to produce a whole nother set of specifications and split the plans into the different phases. The biggest cost, if you look in the addendum, is adding a whole nother construction season of construction, inspection, and testing. So by adding another approximately 8 months of construction time to phase two, that's where the majority of the cost is coming from. It's not so much splitting it into two different projects plan-wise, it's adding the additional construction management time.
Okay, Mr. Kalsich, so are they the supervisors on the project also?
They are the project engineers.
So they will be doing inspections and everything like that?
They have a project representative on site all of the time, yes, during construction.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries unanimously, bringing us to the chicken ordinances. We are on first reading, so there will not be any action. We'll start with 2025-05.
An ordinance amending Article 3.5 of the ordinances of the City of Rock Springs entitled Humane Control and Regulation of Animals.
Your Honor, members of the council, sorry I didn't catch this at the agenda meeting yesterday, but 2025-06, the next ordinance is a duplicate of 2025-05. 2025-05 contains amendments to both 527A and 527D. And so we should simply remove 2025-06 from the agenda merely because it's a duplicate, and then begin the numbering of the ordinances at the next time we have another ordinance at 06. And so we would just eliminate that. So there's no need to have another reading for that ordinance.
Okay. Will that take a motion to remove it, or can we just?
Well, I think just to keep the record clean, you'd want a motion to just simply remove it from the agenda because it's a duplicate.
Okay. Then I would entertain that motion.
Your Honor, so moved.
Thank you, Councilor Hanson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Bingham. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, no, I don't need to do a roll call for that. We're not voting on an ordinance. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstaining? Happy that I took away Matt's fun? Yeah, okay. Very good. That brings us to the council updates portion of the meeting. If there's anything that you've been up to that you'd like to share, now is the opportunity.
I would like to share that I went to Cheyenne for lead into leadership and met a lot of outstanding ladies from around the state.
Wonderful. Okay. The only thing I would like to mention is a thank you to Santa Fe for being such a tremendous community partner. They raised almost $30,000 to offset the medical costs for Darren Macy, which speaks very highly of them and of our community. I don't know how many people tried to eat there, but the Santa Fe usually, right, you sit down and 15 minutes later you have your meal, and it was more of a 3-hour wait because so many people were showing up to support that family. And that was a really wonderful thing that they and their staff did.
Can I say too, Your Honor, it just the takeout, they were just extremely busy. I mean, it was full. That was the first time I've ever sat in a restaurant for 2+ hours, not received my food, and no one complained.
Yeah, no.
It was great to see the community involvement. I agree.
It was wonderful. Okay.
Your Honor. Ooh. Put it down. Just a quick question. With the ordinance coming to a vote here in a few weeks, you guys have any idea where you're leaning so far?
We'll wait on that because we want to give people time, especially where we're pulling a committee together, to look at the amended language, and rather than, I'd hate for somebody to speak off the cuff and feel like they locked themselves in and not give it due process.
Okay.
Yeah, but thank you.
We're adjourned. Fun hater.